In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a jack-o'-lantern. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with our pumpkin. So I'm going to click here to make perspective active. I'm going to go to create geometry, which is the default. I'm going to click on sphere. I'm going to make myself a sphere with a radius of 100 units, which is a meter, which is going to mean a big pumpkin. I'll just hit Z to zoom out, right click to get out of sphere. I'm going to come over here to modify, and what I want to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and put a freeform deformation modifier on it. That's an FFD, and I want the one that's 4 by 4 by 4. Now that creates a volume around my object, and so if I go in and I select points on my object, it'll move them around. Don't do this, I'm just showing you this to show how it works. I'm going to click here, right click and say move, and pull it, and you can see that whatever is inside that volume starts to move. Alright, now that I've shown you how it works, I'm going to show you what to do specifically for what we're creating. I'm going to come over here to the top, I'm going to click in negative space of this volume and drag, so I grab all of those control points in the center. I'm now going to right click to make my front view active. I'm going to right click again and go into scale. I'm just going to grab this Y axis and scale that down. And what that's doing for me is it's squishing down my pumpkin. I'm just going to right click, convert that at poly, because I'm going to make that change permanent. I'm going to throw down another FFD 4 by 4 by 4, go into the control points. I'm going to raise this whole thing up so it's sitting here flat at 0 on the Z plane. Good. Now I want to make my pumpkin a little bit not quite as flat. There we go. Bring them up a little bit. And I think if I hold and adjust here, Control R to orbit, this is looking pretty decent for a pumpkin, I'd say. So I'm gonna pause a second. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna right click and convert to editable poly. Now I want to do a little bit more to give this a little bit more of a pumpkin-like shape. I'm gonna come in here, click on vertex, and select the one point in the center here. I'm gonna find my soft selection. Click on use soft selection, set this to like 150, which is huge and way too much. So basically soft selection, when you click on a point, it will affect that point, move that point, and everything else is affected to a slightly lesser extent. So I'm going to right click to make this active. You see when I pull it down, what that does. And so I just want to bring this down just a little bit. I'm going to make a little divot in the top of my pumpkin. I'm going to turn that off. Now, let's get some of those good old-fashioned pumpkin ridges, Z to zoom out, on our good old jack-o'-lantern here. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab this edge, and what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to come over here to modify selection. I'm going to change the dot gap to 4 and hit dot ring. And that's not quite it. I do want to be grabbing, let's change it to 3. Dot ring. There we go. So now I'm getting every fourth edge going all the way around. So I'm going to grab a loop. And I'm going to just hold Alt and deselect these guys here in the center. Let's do the top and bottom. And now I'm going to grab that FFD 4 by 4 again. And I'm going to go into the sub-object, the control point, grab those control points, right click, go into scale, and here hovering over Y and X, just pull that in. And it's going to give me a little bit more pumpkin look. You know, just a little bit, not too much. I don't want to overdo it. Right click, convert to edit poly, and then I'm going to grab that edge that's on the center. And it's easier to see here on the top. I'm going to click on this guy. I'm going to do that same dot selection. Grab the loop, once again deselect, oops, go into Q so I can deselect these guys in the center, and now I'm actually going to go loops, set flow to kind of round those out. Alright, so now I got, if I hit Control R, I got a nice looking kind of pumpkin shape here. Right, I'm feeling pretty good about this guy. So from here, with our happy little pumpkin, we can probably go in to create. Alright, so I'm going to hit Alt W with the front view selected and hit Z to zoom in. So now my front view is active. there's my pumpkin, and heck, let's just go ahead and we'll click here, make it orange. There we go. All right, now with line, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to make myself a very simple jack-o'-lantern shape. Don't get too fancy with your shape with your first one. You kind of don't want to get too nuts with it because we're going to use a tool called Boolean to cut out the face, and it's going to create some really ugly geometry that we may have to clean up a little bit. So you don't want to get too fancy when you're first trying this off. You could certainly get way more complicated when you're doing this on your own, should you ever want to make another jack-o'-lantern. And don't worry about the points when you're in this stage of it, because as soon as I finish this off, I'm going to go ahead and with one spline selected, go to the geometry rollout, click out attach, and attach those other 2 points, at which case I'm going to click to turn that off, go into vertex. I'm going to right click and say corner, because I want these all to be corner pieces. There we go. And now if I just move my points around, I'm going to bring them in a little bit just to kind of refine the shape here. And feel free when you're doing this tutorial to make your own design. You don't have to do exactly the same one that I'm doing here. Feel free to have a little bit of creative expression at this point. You do want to be careful that, as I said, you certainly can do curves if you want, maybe just to get your initial first version of this guy done. Maybe don't go too bonkers when you're setting it up. Alright, so now I have a basic jack-o'-lantern shape. I'm going to hit Alt-W to go out to my other views. And you can see, right, he's located right here on Z. So I'm going to now find my Extrude modifier, which I happen to have here in my name selection sets, but it's under modifier list. I'm going to type in 100. And so now here in perspective, I'm going to hit F4. You could see where the shape's going to be coming out. So maybe I'll raise them up a little bit. There we go. All right. So at this point, this is a great point to save. So I'm going to pause while I save my file. You should save yours as well. All right. I have saved my jack-o'-lantern. I'm now going to select the pumpkin itself. I'm going to create. And in geometry, I'm going to go to compound objects. Now, later versions may have some slightly different versions of what I'm going to do. There should still be a Boolean. I'm going to click on Boolean, which is the classic, and click on Pick Operand B, and then come over here and click on that shape. And what that does is that then cuts that geometry out. Now I can come over here and go to Modify, and here I could go to the operands. And you can see if I select the line, I could actually kind of move it around to see where might be a better spot if I kind of want to reposition it. Right? If I want to be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, I can kind of adjust where it sits. And I can kind of fine tune that. So once I'm happy with its position, I'm actually going to right click and say Convert Edit Poly to make that change permanent. I'm now going to go to Polygon. And when I go into Polygon, you see that all that geometry on the inside is still selected. So with that still selected, I'm going to hit Delete because I want to cut that out. I'm going to go to Display and turn on Backface Cull so you can see that we only have the polygons on the outside. Now we are going to get geometry on the inside to make our pumpkin a solid object with geometry on the inside. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of cleanup. So I'm going to go into Vertex and I'm going to turn on Ignore Backface. And I'm going to come here to the front, Alt-W to make that full screen, F3 to go into shaded. And I'm just going to grab these verts, and under here, under Edit Vertice, I'm going to hit Connect. And what we want to do is we want to end up with either 4-sided or 3-sided polygons. And in situations like this, where we just have this weird kind of triangle, I might just collapse that down and target weld this guy to bring him in. And I would just go through. Now it's easy for me to go through and select these because I did turn on Ignore Backface. I don't have to worry about grabbing geometry on the back side of my model. So I'm just going to go through, and anywhere I have those kind of 4-sided polygons, I'm just going to go through. And actually, A couple different ways we can do it. Some cases we may just go in and select an edge and just collapse it down to a point like this. Other times we may go in and actually define additional geometry, like I might just collapse that guy, collapse this one. Now here where these teeth are, this would be good to connect, coming around here to define those shapes a little better. Like this vert I might just remove. And so going through and doing just this little bit of cleanup is going to be important for really preserving our geo on the model so that it doesn't get too bad. Because I mean we did do some horrible stuff to the model. If I come here to display and turn on edges only, you can see all these random verts. And we really want to try to clean this up a little bit. And turn on target weld here. Just weld this guy down, weld this guy down. I'm going to keep going through. I'm always going to make sure that ignore back face is on so I'm not accidentally grabbing model geometry on the back side. And so the key thing we're doing here is we're going through and defining where these hard edges are in our model, so we're getting them to be either 3 or 4-sided. I could tell looking at that guy that looked a little weird to me, and yeah, there's 2 edges right there. And there's 3 here. I'm just going to select this one and delete them. Alright. I could probably collapse that down, grab this guy and delete him. Collapse this guy down. Ooh, that's a nasty little mess. Let's collapse that down. Same here. And then we just go through and maybe we'll get back to connecting now. Kind of working our way through here. Sort of connecting. And trying to, basically just trying to get in there and make it so it's either 4-sided or 3-sided polygons as much as possible. What this does is it just helps the software draw the geometry a little better. You're kind of going in there and defining where these things are, how these polygons should draw. It ends up making for a nicer looking model, and if you do end up wanting to use something like this in a game, you would definitely have to do something like this. We're going to clean it up to define those edges. So, ooh, got a couple edges right there. Let's collapse that down. And then I'll come back in here and get back to my connecting, right? And really the thing, like I said, I'm trying to do is get it to either be 3 or 4-sided polygons. Anytime, yeah, I'm just trying to generally just sort of clean them up. Look it around here, seeing what needs to be cleaned up. It's still kind of messy. Try to just have those 2 selected there. Working our way through. We'll grab these guys and collapse them. And of course, if you did your own design, then this would be a different process for you. You wouldn't be making the exact same changes that I am right now to your models. I'll just weld that guy up. And I'm going to kind of, let me use target weld a little bit here to target weld some of these points up and around here. And there we go. It's looking pretty good on this guy. Maybe a couple spots here and there. We still get some shapes going here. Ooh, got a couple right there. Let's collapse those. All right, I think we're pretty good. Let's go back to display and turn off edges only. This guy's not so bad. He's probably going to be okay. All right, so let's take a look here. We got his face cut out. Let's throw an unwrap on, open the UV editor, and take a look at what we got. So this is a sphere originally, so this is his default layout. So it's not too bad. Let's click on polygon and just for fun, let's say select overlap polygons. There's none. All right, so let's grab everything and just say tools, relax. I'm going to relax by polygon angle. Okay, so we're not going to do that. I'm just going to remove that modifier. It looked like it was in good shape, but maybe we'll just put a new one on, open the UV editor. I'm just going to grab this whole thing here and just kind of shrink it down a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, That's pretty good. I'm going to right click and convert to edit poly to make that change permanent. Now, we should give him a name. We should call him Pumpkin. All right, next we're going to need a shell modifier, which I already happen to have a shell here in my modifier list. So I'm going to click on that. We want to leave the outer amount at 0, but we want to increase the inner amount. And this is going to be however thick you want your jack-o'-lantern to be. So I'm going to hit Alt-W so you can see this. So now it helps that we cleaned it up because we're getting a cleaner job here with the thickness. So set that to 10. We can orbit around, see how that goes. Yeah, actually looks pretty good. I think I can probably live with this. So let's leave that at 10. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to make that change permanent. So we're going to convert to edit poly. And now we're going to put another unwrap on. So at this point, what we're going to do is open UV editor. And so we already have all this here. I'm going to do select and select inverted polygons, and that's going to grab everything pretty much on the inside and some of those guys on the edge. So really what I want to do is, I think before I do anything else, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to use point to point, and I'm just going to trace around the face. Let's hit F to go to the front. There we go. And I'm just going to trace around where the face is on this guy to kind of define that edge, because I'm going to want to peel everything that's in the mouth. Alright, so we'll come in here, kind of work our way through, going all the way around on this model. And I don't think my point-to-point's doing the best job. I think it's actually missing some stuff, so I may have to go back, but we'll find out in a second. Alright. Yeah, he missed a couple, so I'm just going to turn on the manual and just kind of go through and click on those couple of edges that got missed. Okay, now I need to do the same thing on the inside. I mean, I could try grabbing this edge. I'll go to edge mode. If I grab loop, oh, that's not really going to work well. Yeah, I didn't think so. That's right. Oh, and actually it went really bad because it's going on the inside. I'm going to hit G, then hit P to make it perspective. I'm just going to start this over. And I think I'm just going to go through and manually select these. And then hit convert. Now, you got to be careful. You may accidentally select edges on the outside. So you're going to have to be careful about that. Or, I'm sorry, on the back side. So you'll have to go back and double check to make sure you didn't actually grab any edges on the back side before you do any kind of peeling here. Oops. See, I got one right there. And really, it's not on the back side, it's on the inside, because we're working on this jack-o'-lantern, and we're working on defining all of these edges on them. And so at this point, we've given him mass and thickness, and so the inside of his mouth we can see, and that can cause trouble for us. So let's just keep working our way around here, selecting these edges, and then I'm going to go in, I'm going to use convert selection to edge seams. Nope, missed a spot. Alright, let's try. I'm going to select a polygon, expand selection. Okay, so I missed one. So let's just look around, see if we can figure out where that edge is that I missed. Because I definitely missed one. Oh, he's right there. So we'll come in, select that, click to turn that off, select an edge, expand my selection. There it is. Perfect. We will probably, let's go ahead and let's define the corners of the mouth as seams as well, so that it splits the top and the bottom of the inside of the mouth. There we go. Let's real quick orbit around, make sure we don't have anything but just the mouth. Perfect. Go back to shaded, and now I'm going to select one of these polygons. Oops, I got to turn off my seam tool, which I accidentally turned on, so now I got to deselect this one guy on the inside. There he is. Alright. Alright, one more time. Turn them off, select a polygon, expand my selection, peel. Or why don't we just project it? There it is. That works too. Turn off the peel. Keep in mind, different versions of the software, the projections may look a little bit different, so don't worry too much about that, okay? I'm going to expand my selection out to my seams, and I'm just going to have to projection map that again. There we go. And I could just take these guys and relax them. Tools, relax by polygon. There they are. Okay. I'm going to want to do the same thing up here with the eyes. So I'm going to come up here again and just do the same thing. Hopefully my point-to-point will work just fine for me. See, he worked good. You're going to want to find some area to define. If I go wireframe, I think I can pull this off. Let's see. Grab an edge, polygon, move it around. Perfect. Let's expand our selection. And I'm actually, you'll notice I'm hitting projection at this point, and then I peel it. That's because those polygons, these polygons on the inside, they don't have any UVs created, and so peel's not working with them. So I need to project them first before I can peel them. And so now I'll come back to this eye, same thing. I'm going to go through, define that edge, go into wireframe, and then define the inside of the eye as well. And then make one connection there. Select this polygon, expand my selection, and peel it. Don't want to peel it, I want to project it, and then I'm going to peel it. And then relax that. There we go. Okay, so at this point, I can take these guys and go into move. I'm going to move them out of the way. And I want to do select overlapped polygons. I'm going to deselect everything there on the inside. Actually, that's crazy. That's the wrong way to do it. I'm going to turn on select by element. I'm going to click to select my pumpkin here. That's not working the way I wanted either. Let's turn that off. I think the way to go is select inverted. There we go. So now that's got everything on the inside, so I'm going to hit break, and now I can come up here to mirror vertically selected. I'm just going to mirror that. I'm going to take this and kind of move it here. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit because it's the inside of the pumpkin. It doesn't need as much texture detail as the outside. Just kind of move that over. And I'm going to take these guys and I'm going to hit pack custom with just them selected and then kind of scale them down a little bit. Don't want to scale them down too much. I want them to kind of match kind of their general poly shapes that the other guys have. Let's turn that off real quick. And we'll grab, and what I turned off was the display of the checker pattern. Grab this, move this over, rotate, move him, and move him over. There we go. All right. So that's our basic jack-o'-lantern. We could come in here, and if I go into vertex mode and in negative space, click and drag, I can hit Control W, and that'll weld all those verts that were kind of close together that had somehow gotten broken. If I click on this element and hit Control W, it'll fix a bunch of those broken edges. Okay, let's make that permanent. So I'm going to convert that at poly. So at this point, I got a pretty solid pumpkin. All right, we're going to want to texture map them, but let's build a stem first. All right, so here for the stem, what we're going to do is I'm going to make standard primitive. I'm going to make a cylinder. Click and drag, and then drag that up. Now I'm just going to raise him up here. So he's kind of sitting up at the top. And let's put a little bit of a taper on him. Taper. And we'll kind of just adjust the values. I want to use curve to kind of curve them a little bit. And then on top of that, I'm going to put a bend because I want them to kind of bend a little bit. We can adjust the angle. There we go. And I'm just going to right click to make that permanent. And then in polygon, I'm actually going to select the one polygon on the very bottom because you're never going to see them. And hit delete. From there, let's do unwrap UVW. open the UV editor, and I'm going to select the one polygon on the very top and peel him, and then take the whole thing and do Tools, Relax by Polygon. Let's just peel him and relax him. Alright, good enough. And then go ahead and select your pumpkin, and I'm going to attach that guy. Unwrap UVW, open UV editor, and let's turn select by element on and go into polygon and just grab those UV shells. It might be easier to select by element and click on them in 3D space. And I'm going to just rotate them, and I'm going to scale them down proportionally so they're somewhat proportional to the rest of the jack-o'-lantern. Just kind of move them over to the side. And I'm going to grab the top so that he's not overlapping. Alright, and there we go. So now we have a pumpkin, and that pumpkin is ready to be texture mapped. So let's go ahead and we'll save this, and we'll export them out and bring them into our substance in order to texture them. And then we'll do that in a separate tutorial.